Sacred Harmony, where soul wisdom meets real world healing. Today's guest, Richard Tierney, is a trauma recovery coach with a powerful message. Real healing isn't something done to us, it's something awakened within us. From empowering children to honor their emotions to unlocking the often overlooked miracle of prayer. Richard helps us to remember that the soul already knows the way back home. Welcome to the show, Richard. It's an honor to have you.
Anya, the honor is all mine. I feel very proud that people who do podcasts hold these spaces for the likes of myself and anybody else to come on board. I love these opportunities. So thank you very much for having me.
Yeah. So, Richard, you teach children that emotions, even fear, are God given coping tools. Why is this message so vital today?
Well, the children are the future of tomorrow. They're the future of the human race. Unless we teach children to be more independent, more confident in themselves, we're going to doom the human race. If we destroy the ability of children to trust their own instincts, we're going to live in a world where the children are kind of no one's making decisions. It's going to really destroy our future. So we have to find a way of nurturing our children and giving them a sense of confidence and courage and conviction. And our feelings and emotions are our instincts. I like to call them our God-given instincts. We got them from when we were born, from even before we were born. When we're in the womb, I saw something on TikTok recently that made me very smile. Was that these two lads in the room, one saying to the other, "There's nothing after the womb," and the other guy says, "Yeah, no, there is." And your man says, "But what happens when the umbilical cord is cut? It'll all be over." And your man says, "No, no, no, no. It could be completely different. It could be independent." And there's a very kind of humorous attitude about life after death and that kind of stuff. But in the room, we come out of the room, and because we don't die a death, we come out in a state of fight, flight, or freeze. And in that moment, our instincts kick in, and we're either fearful or nervous or apprehensive. And we're born with a go-to. For you, it might have been to run away. For someone else, it might have been to fight. And for me, it might have been to freeze. So when we come out of the room, I'm in a state of freeze, and I shut down emotionally. And the midwife holds me up by the ankles and slaps me on the bottom to get a response out of me. And then as soon as I started reacting, they put me in a blanket and put me into a cot. But in that moment, I have been given the message that the God-given response to freeze is taken from me. And so I found for myself, I'm in a state of fight or flight for the rest of my life. And then a child comes out of the room who's kicking and screaming and shouting. That child might be in a state of fight, and then the midwife wraps up in a blanket to subdue it, puts it into a cot, and the message that child gets is, "I can never fight again. Fight doesn't work." So now it becomes very passive aggressive, and it's stuck in a state of flight or freeze. The third child comes out kicking and screaming and trying to run away, and again the midwife wraps it in a blanket to subdue it, and it's told it can never run away, it can never escape. It has to always either fight or freeze. So this is how it affects us to begin with, before we even start into life of being an adolescent or a child or an adult. One, for most of us, for about 30%, or is it three-quarters of the population suffer in this way. Now the fourth child comes out of the room and is quite content to come out, happy, joyous, and free, not a problem on his face, big smile, whatever. And the nurse gets this child and hands it straight to the mother because it's not causing any problem. The mother holds it to its bosom, and that's the kind of child that grows up to be a John Wayne, or some famous, confident kind of person, because they have all their coping skills intact. But the rest of us have been deprived of our natural go-to coping skill. They were all left with either I'm in fight and flight, and you're in fight and freeze, and someone else is in freeze and flight. We're not really all there.
Absolutely. And how can parents begin reinforcing that belief at home, especially when they weren't taught it themselves?
So when a child comes in for therapy, and so the problem again, we're conditioned to give the worst case scenario. If you have a back pain and you wake up one morning, or even get a dentist, a sore tooth, you got a sore tooth, okay, and then one day you've got an appointment to go to the dentist, and the day you go, the tooth isn't hurting you. But if you go into the doctor, into the dentist and say, "No, no, my tooth's fine," you go out again, he won't give you anything for it, and 2 days later you got a sore tooth. So even though your tooth isn't fine, you'll give him the worst case scenario. You'll kind of go, "Oh, no, no, When it's bad, it's really, really bad. And you tell them the worst if it is, and they'll say, okay, well, then that sounds like this, and they'll give you the medication for it. The same with if you have a back pain and the day you go in, you're fine, but you're kind of knowing the minute I get home, it's going to be sore. I better tell this guy how bad it can be. It's the same when it comes to mood disorders. We tell the mental health professional how bad our anxiety can be, how soul destroying it can be, but it's not a permanent state of mind. So for me, I suffered with depression, but it wasn't a permanent state of depression. I suffered with bouts of depression. There's times I go through my day and I was perfectly fine, but when the depression hit, it would be quite strong, quite severe. But when I went to my therapist, I of course said the depression's terrible. And I gave him the big thing about how bad it is, and they of course medicated me for a depression as though it was a full state of being. And of course, it wasn't. It was a bout of depression. So I think it would have been if they said to me, okay, well, which response can you not do? And I'd say, well, I think I can't freeze. I've been told I can't freeze. I never freeze. I want to, but I can't. So if a therapist said, listen, rather than medicating you, we're going to give you a safe space in our therapy room that you can practice freezing. So we'll give you 4 or 5 different ways. One is to disassociate. So there's a beanbag in the corner. Go over there and just lie up in the big ball. Ignore me. Curl up into a ball. You can put your hands over your ears. You want to rock back and forwards. Or you can sit in your chair and just ignore, pretend I'm not here. Go into a fantasy and dream some fantasy about you're in some other place. And if we teach children to practice that response that they're afraid to practice, suddenly they become complete again. Does that make sense to you, Anya?
Yeah, it does. And that's such a liberating shift from labeling reaction as wrong to honoring them as divine signals.
Completely. So I love your title of Sacred Harmony. We have to get in harmony with the world, but we have to be in harmony with ourselves. And I believe firmly that my response was to freeze. Now, I don't know. I haven't been able to ask my parents. Both my parents are dead, so I can't ask them. When I was born, did the midwife hold me up at the ankles and tap me in the bum to give erection at me? Then I'd know that my response was freeze when I came out of the womb. And of course, I was comatose. They didn't know if I was dead or not. And the nurse slapped me in the bum to wake me up and then put me in a blanket because I started to get all. My mother was wrecked after the birth. They put me into a cot so I wouldn't be any extra pressure. But in that moment, I was told freeze doesn't work, and that was my God-given instinct, was to freeze. Now, if I'd managed to be freeze and they let me freeze, and then I came back out of it, I would have been fine. But the midwife has to give you a slap in the bum to make sure you're alive, that there's nothing happened to the baby. So you can't blame the midwife or the doctors or whatever, but just that's just where it was. So I believe for me, I was robbed of my ability to freeze. So I spent most of my childhood, adult life, in a state of fight or flight. I was very, very passive, very victim. I would just get stuck, like it stuck in headlights, and I couldn't run. I was like in this freeze where it wasn't that a freezing, but I wasn't, I was in freeze, which would have been very healthy if I could shut down and just disassociate. But I was in this state of reactive, obsessive, compulsive. Do I run? Do I stop? I couldn't make up my mind because they weren't my natural go-to places. And that's the problem we have. So it would be much better if we didn't medicate children, but we taught them how to respond in fight, to respond in flight, and to respond in freeze.
100%. And you have said prayer is one of the most misunderstood powers we have. What do people often get wrong about prayers?
Uh, There's, there's so much we have to contend with. I'm sadly, I think nowadays we've been conditioned to believe that God isn't a power in our lives. We can't we can't depend upon him, or it's a religion and we have to follow all these rules to have God in our lives. So we've pulled away completely from the concept of God or prayer or meditation or being still or all those things that help to achieve a sense of sacred harmony. It's been taken from us. And everyone is under the idea that if you want to have God in your life, then you have to follow all the rules of the Catholic faith or the Protestant and all they have. But giving 1/10 of your income to the church and going to church every Sunday and going to confession, all these things they have tied to having God in your life. But the Bible says, I want a personal, private, intimate relationship with you. You don't have to go to any church. Don't join any man made religion. And don't join any denomination. Go to your bedroom, lock your door, close the curtains, turn off the lights, and climb into your wardrobe. And in secret, have a chat with me. And if that's all the communication you do with me for the rest of your day is that in your closet at night time, in the morning, during your day, you have a chat with me. And if you're at work, leave work and go into the public toilets, lock the door of one of the cubicles, sit on the toilet seat and talk to me. Or go down into nature and go somewhere near a tree when no one's around and sit down and talk to me silently or out loud and have a personal, intimate conversation with me. That's all you have to do. And I will come into your life and I will perform miracles in your life.
That's great. And can prayer still work even when we are angry, confused, or don't feel heard?
Absolutely. Now, there's a couple of things we have to understand. I don't know what faith you are. And I'm not asking you for your faith. I'm not trying to convert you to my faith. I'm not a member of any church, denomination, or religion. I don't attend church. I love churches. I love the energy in a church. Like it's real, that energy is like that sacred harmony. There's an energy when you go in, you feel this energy. But I'm not a member of a church. I was raised a Roman Catholic. I did try to join other denominations, but I didn't like all the man-made rules. Really put me off. And then I remember meeting this Protestant priest, and he said they call a pastor, not a priest. And he said to me, "Just get a Bible and have a personal relationship with God. And if you never go to a church in your lifetime, and you never join a denomination or join a church or religion, it's okay. Just have that personal relationship." And as I read my Bible, I find out that we have two choices. We can't have our cake and eat it. Either I can be resentful, angry, unforgiving, looking for vengeance and justice for what happened to me in the past. But what that means is that the person who harmed me, when they die, they go straight to heaven because they have been punished on this earth by me. But if I want them to burn the fires of hell for all eternity for what they did to me, I have to give my anger to God. So I have to forgive them on this earth. I have to wish for the very best for them on this earth. I have to pray for them every single day until they no longer trigger me. So a lot of this is about forgiving your abuser, which is, again, if you got someone who hurts you badly, it's very hard to forgive them. But you have to love them, forgive them, pray for them, say the most wonderful things about them. You want them to be happy and millionaires and all the things you want, you're going to give to them. And if you say this long enough and often enough, you'll find one day they won't have any power over you. They'll have lost their power. And that moment, you know that they're destined for hell. That's a great sense of peace in knowing that your troublemaker, your abuser, your bully is destined for hell. Like it's frightening when you get there. You suddenly have peace of mind. A lot of that comes up in all children right through to adults. They've been bullied or treated badly or betrayed, or they've been abused in some way, mentally, physically, emotionally, sexually. And they have this sense of being a victim and they can't live a normal life because of it. They're so out of sync with themselves, there's no possibility of them ever experiencing harmony in any way, shape, or form. They have this thing eating away at their souls inside them, and they can't react to life safely. So I teach two programs. One is for children about trusting their feelings and emotions, but the other one is to tell people that what happened in the past didn't happen to the person I am today. So I'm a 64-year-old man today, and my trauma happened at the age of 12, but I can't be a 12-year-old child if I'm a 64-year-old man. So what happened to that 12-year-old child didn't happen to the 64-year-old man. So I can't say I was abused at 12 years of age because I'm a 64-year-old man. You understand?
Yeah. And that reframe on prayer being a channel, not a performance, is deeply empowering.
Mhm. Yeah. So it's a very personal journey, but it's a journey of self-healing. No one out there can fix you or I. They can probably see how it manifests in our life, but they can't see the hole in your soul. And they can't see why God created you with freeze, and they created me with fight, and they created somebody else with flight. They can't see the reason why. So they start treating you with medication for because they don't freeze, and if you freeze, then there must be something wrong with you, and you should be doing what they do. So they medicate you for freezing, but freezing is your go-to. flights might, or whatever that case may be, we have to allow people to be who they are. To thine own self be true. If your response is to freeze, we have to teach you how to freeze better. If your response is to flight, we have to teach you how to flight better. You can, and if your response is to fight, we teach you how to fight better, and then we teach you the other responses so that now you're more balanced and you can always choose something not used to, but you know how to.
Definitely. And you shared that what happened in the past didn't happen to you of today. Can you unpack that for us?
Okay, well, again, I try to keep this as simple as possible when I work with people. So I ask you to get 2 sheets of paper. Okay, so Anya, let's imagine today you're 26 years of age. And let's imagine at 12 years of age, you suffered a trauma event. Just for imagination, okay? So on one page, you put down 26-year-old Anya, okay? Living in New York, married, 2 children, both parents have passed on, grandparents have passed on, and your history, your autobiography of who you are today. And then you have a page of the 12-year-old child, and you have 12-year-old Anya lives in Germany. Her parents are alive. She lives at home with her parents and her grandparents and her siblings, and she goes to school at such and such. And you put a photograph of yourself beside the 26-year-old, and you take a photograph of that 12-year-old child, and you put it on the other page, and you see quite clearly the 2 different people. So for me, I'm a 64-year-old man. I'm living in Thailand. I'm married. I've got 2 teenage adult children, both attending university. Both my parents are dead. My grandparents are dead. All my relations, bar one, are dead. And of my 5 siblings, one died of leukemia. And the family home is sold. And then here I am in Thailand, and I'm in my own family home. And I go back to the 12-year-old child. 12-year-old child is living with his parents. His grandparents are alive. All his uncles and aunts are alive. His 5 siblings are all alive. And he's living in the family home, and he's in school. And I take a picture of him, and he's in a school uniform. And here I am, the 64-year-old man, gray hair, gray beard. I'm 64 years of age. There's a difference in the two of us. And I can see that I'm an old man and he's a little child. I can't say what happened to him happened to me. In the same way, he can't say what's happening in 50 years' time to Richard, it happened to me in the past. We have to come to understand that we carry the memory of what happened to our younger self, and we carry sympathy pains for that younger version of ourselves.
Yeah.
Because we can't change the past. Like yesterday, I was very excited about coming on your podcast, and I was trying to work out. Okay, I've got to shave my beard, and I've got to cut my hair, and I've got to get a new shirt to look like this. And I meant to clean up my office. Thank God it's not a video show because my office is a mess. But I'm thinking about all the things I've got to do to prepare for this. And when I speak slowly and clearly, and when I get a clear message across, and I don't do much about music. So I'm looking at your bio for yourself, and it's all about music. I'm going, am I in the wrong place? Will I be kicked out or something? Will I fit in here or something? And all these kind of stuff goes through my head yesterday. But here I am in your company, loving every moment of this. We're not talking about music. You're allowing me to talk about harmony with no music involved. I seem to be slipping through the cracks and being allowed in. I think I'm speaking slowly and clearly. I think I'm carrying a message of hope for your audience. And I'm really enjoying this podcast. So it's 2 different versions of the same person. The person I was yesterday was nervous, apprehensive, and excited about meeting you. And here I am in complete excitement of being here. 2 different people completely. So I can't say I'm the person I was yesterday because I'm having a completely new experience today. In the same way, I'm not a 12-year-old child from 52 years ago. I'm a 64-year-old husband and father in Thailand chatting to you today.
Absolutely. And how does someone start to believe that truth when trauma still feels so present in their body?
Okay, well, again, it's very hard to explain this we've got 9 minutes left, but even if we had an hour to explain to you the process is very, very difficult. But the first and foremost is for the client if the client can realize that what happened in the past didn't happen to them, it's amazing. Half the work is done. It really is. When they change their attitude, outlook, and perspective about this, they're no longer going around thinking, I was abused when I was 9 or 12 or 17 or 45, or I was molested, or I was beaten up, or whatever. Even a parent, but I lost my son. If you carry the memory of the loss of a son, the truth is that a younger version of you So maybe when you were 45, your son died, and you're 55 today. Well, then you're carrying the memory of what happened to a 45-year-old version of you. But you're 10 years older and you've moved on 10 years and you've passed by that grief over 10 years, and maybe you have more children in your family. Maybe your other children have grown up and you're putting all your energy into them. And so you realize you're not the same person today as the person who suffered the loss 10 years ago. So you may not be talking about your child who died, but you may be having this process healing event between you and that 10-year younger version of you. So the real target is to see that I only exist in these 24 hours today. And then the beauty about the God thing is that there's a wonderful prayer practice I share with my clients. And it's where you say to God, Lord, I've carried this cross since the day I was born. And like your son, Jesus, I have faltered more than once. It has all the depression, despair, and dread of the past, and all the anxiety and fear and panic of the future. And it has, and then with a pen and paper, I ask the clients to write out every person, place, and thing that triggers them, all the negative thinking and faulty feeling that really keeps them awake at night, and all the nightmares and flashbacks. And you read this out to God and you say, it has all this on us as well. I'm giving all of this to you freely and unconditionally in exchange for 8 hours sleep. And then you take that list, go into the bathroom, tear it up, take out a lighter, burn the pages, and flush it down the toilet. And that very act removes it from your psyche. When you go back into bed and you're laying your head in the pillow and close your eyes, put a gentle smile on your lips, you will fall into an 8 hour sleep with no nightmares, no flashbacks, no triggers. It's the most amazing, beautiful experience. And you realize you've just performed a miracle upon yourself. You've been living like for 10 years with nightmares and flashbacks and triggers and not an ounce of peaceful sleep. And simply by doing this practice and declaring you're giving it to God, no strings attached, here, take it from me and give me 8 hours of peaceful sleep. And then you take it from your psyche and you flush it down the toilet and you get into bed. All that combined clears your mind enough that you sleep for 8 hours with no nightmares, no flashbacks, no triggers. And that for me is a miracle. If I go from nightmares for 17 years and suddenly one prayer practice, I get a night of peaceful sleep, that for me is a miracle. I don't know what you want to call it, but that for me is a miracle. And then I realize I've just performed a miracle on myself. If I can perform a miracle on myself that fast with one prayer, I want to perform a few more. I want to cast out all my demons, slay all my dragons, break free of the past, and live in the present. There are 4 miracles I want to do. And if Richard can promise me those 4 miracles, I'm doing this. I mean, you know, I'm not doubting this. I'm not fighting this. Bring it on. Because the first miracle you experience of having 8 hours of peaceful sleep, such a wondrous gift that you realize I've given this to myself. It's not a therapist. It's not therapy. It's not medication. It's not a priest or a pastor. I gave this to myself. The sense of relief from that is profound.
Mm-hmm. And that insight speaks to so many listeners still carrying wounds as identities. They need to hear this.
I thank you very much, Anya. I love your words of encouragement. I really do. I love being on these podcasts. I can't get enough of them. I'm looking for podcasts to speak on because they're a lovely way of connecting with people. And I want people to know no one can fix you. There's no, I love all that we're thinking about all the king's horses and all the king's men can't put you or I back together again. It's always been an inside job. There's a hole in our soul. And if we're denied the right to form some sort of relationship with God that's safe and okay for us, we'll never heal the hole in our soul. So please know, I'm not talking about religion. I hate the concept of religion because it's man-made. And you don't have to join any church or denomination. You can simply say to God, okay, God, Richard said, if I demand a miracle of you now to give me peace of mind for 8 hours, you have to give me that miracle. And so here's all my crap. I've got on a pen and piece of paper. I'm going to give you all this. In exchange, give me 8 hours of sleep. Thank you very much. Good night. You get the 8 hours of sleep. It's that simple. It really is. People make this God thing so difficult to embrace. But it's the simplest thing in the world to claim your miracle. It's that simple. It sounds crazy, but sorry. I'll let you speak, Anya. I'm talking too much. I'm not letting you get a word in edgeways.
No, no, that's great. Please continue.
Oh, okay. Well, I've got 4 minutes left. I better
Mhm.
get this right. So there's 3 things I try to share with clients. Just finish up with 3 clients. One thing is whatever has happened in your life, No, you weren't the target. There wasn't a target on your back, and you weren't the victim. The person who harmed or hurt you was acting out to fulfill their own needs. And it could have been anybody they targeted. They didn't lay in bed thinking, when I wake up in the morning, I'm going to attack Richard Tierney or I'm going to attack Anya. They woke up and they had an urge to vent whatever they had to vent. And it happened to be that I wasn't in the wrong place at the wrong time. They came into my space. So I was never the victim or the martyr. And you're not the victim or martyr, Anya. The other person's just acting out, and they happen to invade into our space. And that's the first real kind of sense of relief that you experience that you didn't do something wrong. You didn't attract this person yourself. You didn't give signals. You weren't in the right place, the wrong place, the wrong time. It's not your fault. That's the first thing all of your audience needs to understand. Whatever happens, it's never their fault. The second one is to know you're never alone. In libraries, there are so many resources, books and videos and audio files you can get for free. There's podcasts like Anya's podcast here, where you get to meet people like myself and other people that you probably never had a chance of meeting before. There's so many resources out there you can tap into. There's 12-step support groups for mood, if you have mood problems or codependency problems or setting healthy boundaries or whatever it is. There's groups out there of people who won't try and fix or save you, but they're there for the same reason you're there for. They'll teach you what they did to get better, and it's free. If you can afford to pay a donation, they'll take a donation off you. If you haven't any money, you can go there for free. You can go under an alias. You can go in and mine is Rich. I can say my name is John, and they won't question me. They let me come in. The third one is give God a second chance. Many people use God and abuse people using God, but God Himself, He wants to be in your life and He wants to fulfill all of your miracles that you require, and He won't come into your life unless you invite Him. So go into your closet, lock the bedroom door, and say, "Okay, God, I'm inviting you into my life now. Send 10,000 angels down to protect me from my parents or my siblings or my partner or whatever it is. Stand with me, like I did before this podcast. I said, okay, God, send 10,000 angels down to me to protect me that I don't speak incorrectly or use bad language or offend somebody in Anya's audience." And I think they've done a great job and they've protected me when I've been here with you guys. I'm done. You got the last 1 minute for you.
Yeah. So Richard earlier just reminded us that healing isn't about fixing what's broken. It's about remembering what's sacred. Prayer, presence, and permission to feel. These are the tools. If this episode resonated with you, don't just listen, begin. Your soul already knows the way. Let it lead.